Commander Kale stared at his scanner display for the third time, certain the machine was broken. The readings showed nothing but empty space where his star charts indicated active civilizations should exist. He tapped the screen with one long finger, hoping to fix whatever malfunction was causing this impossible data. Officer Vex, run a diagnostic on the long-range sensors, he called to his subordinate across the bridge of their exploration vessel. Vex's 4 arms moved quickly over the control panels, his blue skin glowing slightly as he concentrated. After several minutes, he looked up with confusion in his large, dark eyes. Sir, all systems are working perfectly. The scanners are not malfunctioning. Kale felt a chill run down his spine. In his 40 years of mapping the galaxy's outer regions, he had never encountered anything like this. The zone ahead of them appeared completely dead. No quantum communications, no energy signatures from cities or space stations, no signs of the advanced technology that every known civilization used. The dead zone stretched across thousands of light years, a massive scar on the edge of their galaxy. Trade ships avoided it entirely, taking longer routes that added weeks to their journeys. Military fleets refused to patrol near it. Even the bravest explorers turned back when they reached its borders. Sir, the other ships in our fleet are reporting the same readings, Vex announced, his voice barely above a whisper. Captain Thorne says his instruments show the same thing. Nothing but empty space. Kale walked to the large viewing window at the front of his bridge. Outside the stars looked normal. But according to every piece of technology on his ship, the region ahead was completely lifeless. No advanced civilizations, no space traffic, no signs of intelligent life at all. The Galactic database called this area many names. Some species referred to it as the graveyard, because ships that entered it never returned. Others called it the Silent Reach, because no communications ever came from within its borders. The most common name was simply, the end of everything, as if the galaxy itself just stopped existing in that direction. But Kale was a scientist, and scientists asked questions when things made no sense. Vex, switch to the basic electromagnetic scanners, he ordered. The old ones we use for detecting primitive civilizations. His officer looked surprised. Those scanners were ancient technology, used only when studying planets that had not yet developed advanced communications. But he followed orders, adjusting the controls to search for simple radio waves instead of quantum transmissions. The results made both of them freeze in shock. Sir, Vex whispered, there are signals coming from deep inside the dead zone. Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. Kale rushed to look at the display. The electromagnetic spectrum was full of activity, radio waves, television broadcasts, simple digital transmissions. The kind of signals that primitive civilizations used before they discovered quantum communication technology. This makes no sense, Kale said, studying the patterns. These signals are too organized to be natural. Too complex to be accidental. Someone is transmitting them. Vex adjusted the controls, trying to get clearer readings. The signals are spread across multiple star systems, sir. This isn't just one planet. It's an entire region of space using primitive communication methods. Kale felt his heart beating faster. Every spacefaring civilization in the galaxy had abandoned electromagnetic communications thousands of years ago. Quantum transmissions were faster, more secure, and could travel instantly across any distance. Only a species that had never developed advanced technology would still use radio waves. But that's impossible, Vex said, voicing Kale's own thoughts. Our scouts have been mapping this region for centuries. If there was a primitive civilization here, we would have detected them long ago. Kale stared at the scanner readings, his mind racing. The signals weren't random or scattered. They showed patterns that suggested a highly organized society. Multiple planets were communicating with each other using these primitive methods. There were even what looked like entertainment broadcasts, music and voices carrying across the electromagnetic spectrum. Sir, what do we do? Vex asked. Regulations require us to report any new civilizations to the Galactic Council immediately. But Kale hesitated. Something about this discovery felt different. Dangerous even. Why would an entire region of space appear dead to their advanced scanners while showing signs of primitive life on older equipment? Why had no exploration vessel ever returned from this area? He made a decision that would change everything he thought he knew about the galaxy. Set course for the dead zone border, he ordered. We're going to find out what's really out there. Vex's skin turned a darker shade of blue, a sign of fear among his species. Sir, no ship has ever returned from that region. The High Command specifically ordered all fleets to avoid it. The High Command doesn't know what we know now, Kale replied, watching the strange signals on his screen. Someone is alive in there, using technology we thought was extinct. We need to find out who they are. As their ship changed course toward the mysterious dead zone, neither Kale nor Vex realized they were about to make first contact with the most dangerous species in the galaxy. A species that had accidentally turned their entire corner of space into a weapon against advanced technology. The humans were waiting. Kale stood on the bridge of his small research ship, watching the dead zone grow larger on his viewing screen. He had ignored direct orders from the Vortak High Command to stay away from this region. 3 other crew members had volunteered to join him on this dangerous mission. Dr. Ilix sat at the science station, her green tentacles moving quickly over the controls as she monitored their ship's systems. She was the best xenobiologist in the fleet, known for studying impossible life forms that other scientists said could not exist. Engineer Mordek worked at the back of the bridge, checking their backup systems for the 3rd time. His people were famous for building machines that never broke down, but even he looked nervous about this journey. His thick, gray skin had turned slightly darker, which meant he was worried. Their pilot, Lieutenant Jex, kept both hands steady on the flight controls. His large, round eyes never left the navigation display as he guided them toward the boundary of the dead zone. Approaching the border in 60 seconds, Jex announced, his voice calm despite the danger they all felt. Kale looked at his crew one final time. Everyone ready? Once we cross that line we might not be able to come back. Dr. Ilix nodded firmly. The galaxy needs to know what's in there. We have to try. Mordek grunted his agreement while checking another system. All backup power sources are ready, sir. If our main systems fail, we should have enough energy to survive for several days. 30 seconds to boundary, Jex reported. Kale watched the sensors carefully. Their advanced quantum scanner still showed nothing but empty space ahead. But the primitive electromagnetic detectors continued to pick up those strange signals from deep within the zone. 10 seconds, Jex said. Cross the boundary, Kale ordered. The moment their ship entered the dead zone, every alarm on the bridge began screaming at once. Red lights flashed everywhere as their most important systems started failing in rapid succession. Quantum drive cores are shutting down. Mordek shouted over the noise. Main power is dropping fast. Dr. Ilix's tentacles flew over her controls as she tried to understand what was happening. The bioneural computers are dying. Life support is switching to emergency backup. Jex struggled to keep the ship under control as their advanced flight systems went offline one by one. Navigation is failing. The artificial gravity is becoming unstable. Kale felt his stomach drop as the gravity generators flickered. For a moment, he floated above his chair before the backup systems caught him and pulled him back down. Emergency chemical thrusters only, he commanded. Switch everything to mechanical backup systems. Mordek's thick fingers worked frantically at his engineering station. Sir, the exotic matter containment is becoming dangerous. If those systems explode, they'll destroy the ship. Shut them down completely, Kale ordered. Use only the old chemical systems our ancestors used centuries ago. One by one, they turned off every piece of advanced technology that made their civilization great. The quantum computers that could solve any problem in seconds went silent. The bioneural networks that controlled their life support systems shut down. The exotic matter engines that let them travel faster than light became useless metal boxes. This is impossible, Dr. Ilix whispered as she watched her advanced scientific equipment become worthless. It's like the laws of physics are different here. Mordek was studying his basic instruments, the simple electronic devices that his people hadn't used for thousands of years. The entire region is flooded with electromagnetic radiation. And these gravity readings? Space itself seems twisted here. Jex managed to stabilize their flight using only chemical rockets and mechanical controls. The ship moved much slower now, but at least it was moving. Sir, we're flying like our ancestors did during the early space age. This technology is so primitive. But Kale realized something important. It's primitive, but it's working. Our advanced systems failed immediately, but these old machines are still functioning. Dr. Ilix checked her basic scanners, the kind scientists used when studying planets that had never developed modern technology. The electromagnetic signals are getting stronger. Whatever is transmitting them is getting closer. For 3 days they flew deeper into the dead zone using only their backup systems. Kale felt like he was traveling in a museum piece instead of a modern starship. Everything took longer. Communication was slower. Navigation required manual calculations that their computers used to do automatically. But they were alive and they were moving forward. Sir, Dr. Ilix said on the 3rd day, her voice filled with amazement. I'm detecting massive artificial structures ahead. Space stations. Ships. Entire cities floating in space. Kale looked at his basic viewing screen and could hardly believe what he saw. The structures were huge, built from simple metal alloys that his people had stopped using centuries ago. They looked crude and primitive, like something from an ancient history book. But they were clearly functional. Ships moved between the stations with confidence and purpose. Lights indicated active life support systems. Communication signals flowed between the structures in complex patterns. Whoever built this, Mordek said quietly, they're using technology that should be completely useless in this environment. But somehow it's not just working, it's thriving. Kale stared at the impossible sight before them. An entire civilization was living and working in a region of space that killed advanced technology instantly. They had found something that would change everything the galaxy thought it knew about survival and engineering. Take us closer, he ordered. We need to make contact. Kale's ship moved slowly toward the massive space station using only their primitive chemical engines. The structure ahead of them was enormous, easily 10 times larger than any Vortex station he had ever seen. But it looked like it was built from scrap metal and held together with simple welding. Sir, I'm picking up a transmission, Dr. Ilex announced, adjusting her basic radio equipment. It's coming from the station directly ahead of us. The voice that came through their speakers was unlike anything they had ever heard. It spoke in a language their computers could not translate, but the tone sounded friendly and curious rather than threatening. Unknown vessel, this is Captain Lee Hyun of the Korean naval ship Busan. Your ship design is very unusual. Are you having engine problems? Do you need assistance? Kale looked at his crew in amazement. The aliens in this dead zone were offering to help them, even though their own ship looked far more advanced than anything these creatures could build. How do we respond? Lieutenant Jex asked. Our translation systems don't work anymore. Engineer Mordek was working with one of their backup computers, the simple kind that could still function in this strange environment. I'm getting some basic translation patterns, sir. Their language uses mathematical concepts that our old systems can recognize. After several minutes of careful work, they managed to send a simple response. This is Commander Kale of the Vortak Exploration Fleet. We are visitors from far away. We would like to learn about your people. The response came quickly, and this time their backup translator could handle most of the words. Welcome to human space, Commander Kale. I am Captain Lee Hyun. Would you like to dock with our station? We have food and supplies if you need them. Dr. Ilex's tentacles curled with excitement. Sir, they're calling themselves humans? This species isn't in any of our databases. As their ship slowly approached the docking bay, Kale could see through the viewing ports that the station was full of activity. Hundreds of humans moved through corridors and work areas, all of them wearing simple protective suits instead of the advanced environmental systems most civilizations used. The docking bay itself was a marvel of crude engineering. Thick metal plates covered everything, and the air recycling systems used basic chemical filters rather than the bioneural processors that kept most space stations habitable. Captain Lee Hyun met them at the airlock. He was a tall, thin creature with dark hair and small eyes, wearing a simple blue uniform with metal badges. When he spoke, his translator device was just as primitive as everything else they had seen. Commander Kale, welcome aboard the Busan station. I must say, your ship is the strangest thing we've seen out here. Where exactly did you come from? Kale tried to explain without revealing too much about galactic civilization. We come from a region of space very far from here. We detected your electromagnetic transmissions and came to investigate. Captain Lee laughed, a sound that seemed to indicate happiness among his species. You came all this way just to listen to our radio broadcasts? That's dedication to science. Come, let me show you around our station. As they walked through the corridors, Kale was amazed by what he saw. The humans had built their entire civilization using technology that other species had abandoned thousands of years ago. Nuclear reactors provided power instead of quantum cores. Metal and plastic construction materials replaced the exotic compounds that most advanced civilizations used. But everything worked perfectly. The air was clean and breathable. The gravity was steady and comfortable. The temperature control systems maintained perfect conditions throughout the station. This is our main engineering section, Captain Lee explained, leading them into a large room filled with massive machines. Chief Engineer Kim Tae-min runs this department. He can fix anything that breaks using nothing but spare parts and determination. Engineer Kim was a short, sturdy human with grease on his hands and a friendly smile on his face. He spoke quickly with Captain Lee in their own language, then turned to address the visitors through his translation device. Captain Lee tells me you're from very far away. Your ship uses technology I've never seen before. Those engine designs are completely unknown to us. Mordek stepped forward, fascinated by the crude but effective engineering around him. How do you make all of this work in such a hostile environment? Our advanced systems failed the moment we entered this region of space. Engineer Kim laughed and patted one of his massive machines. Hostile environment? This is normal space for us. We build everything tough and simple. When something breaks, we fix it with tools and hard work. No fancy computers needed. Dr. Ilex was scanning everything with her basic instruments, trying to understand how this was possible. Captain Lee, how long has your civilization been living in this region? Our people have been here for over 300 years, he replied proudly. We've spread to dozens of star systems, building stations and colonies wherever we need them. Space is dangerous, but humans are tough. We adapt to whatever conditions we find. As they continued the tour, Kale began to realize something incredible. These humans hadn't just survived in the dead zone, they had mastered it. They had built a thriving civilization using nothing but determination and primitive technology that actually worked better in this environment than anything the advanced galactic civilizations could create. The most amazing part was that they had no idea how remarkable their achievement was. To them, this was just normal life. Over the next several days, Captain Lee Hyun introduced Kale's team to more humans throughout the station. They met Commander Park Soo-jin, who ran the research vessel Taegu, and Admiral Kim Tae-ho, who commanded the massive carrier Seoul. Each human they encountered was friendly and curious about their strange visitors. But the more Kale learned about human civilization, the more confused he became. These people lived and worked in conditions that should have killed any known species within hours. The radiation levels alone were enough to destroy the genetic structure of most galactic life forms. Captain Lee, Kale asked during one of their conversations, how do your people survive the electromagnetic radiation in this region? Our instruments show levels that would be deadly to most civilizations. Captain Lee looked puzzled by the question. Radiation? You mean the background energy from our old nuclear tests? We just build our ships with thicker metal hulls and better shielding. It's not really a problem anymore. Dr. Ilex nearly dropped her primitive scanner when she heard this. Nuclear tests? You deliberately created nuclear explosions in space. Well, yes, Captain Lee replied casually. Back in our early space age, we were testing different types of weapons and power sources. Some of the experiments got a bit out of hand, but we learned from our mistakes. Engineer Mordek stepped forward, his gray skin darkening with concern. How many of these nuclear tests did your people conduct? Captain Lee thought for a moment. I'm not sure of the exact number. Thousands probably. Maybe tens of thousands. We were very enthusiastic about nuclear technology in those days. Kale felt his blood turn cold. No wonder their advanced technology failed in this region. The humans had accidentally turned their entire corner of the galaxy into a radioactive wasteland that was toxic to quantum computers and bioneural systems. But the humans didn't seem to understand what they had done. To them, this was just normal space that required slightly better engineering to work in. Lieutenant Choi Min-ho, one of the engineers on the Busan station, cheerfully explained their philosophy during a tour of the engine room. We learned early on that you can't rely on fancy technology that breaks when conditions get tough. So we build everything simple and strong. If something can break, we make sure we can fix it with basic tools. But surely your people realize the environmental damage? Dr. Ilex asked, trying to understand how an entire civilization could be so casual about destroying their own star systems. Lieutenant Choi shrugged, a gesture that seemed to mean he didn't think it was important. Every growing civilization makes mistakes. We had some accidents with antimatter experiments too, and a few stellar engineering projects that didn't work exactly as planned. But humans are adaptable. We learn to work around the problems. Kale stared at the young engineer in horror. Antimatter experiments? Stellar engineering? What exactly did your people do to this region of space? Oh, the usual things, Lieutenant Choi replied with a smile. We tried moving some stars to better positions for our trade routes. We tested different ways to extract energy directly from stellar cores. We built a few artificial black holes for waste disposal. Standard stuff for a developing space civilization. Engineer Mordek made a choking sound. You built artificial black holes for garbage disposal? Just small ones, Lieutenant Choi assured him. Most of them evaporated after a few decades. Though I think there are still a couple active ones in the Kepler system. We use them for generating power now. Dr. Ilex was frantically taking notes with her primitive recording equipment. Every word the humans spoke revealed new horrors about what they had done to their local space. They had turned their entire region into a cosmic disaster zone, then simply adapted to live in it. But the most shocking revelation came from Admiral Kim Tae-ho during a meeting in his command center aboard the Seoul. The massive ship was a floating city, home to tens of thousands of humans, all living comfortably in conditions that would kill most galactic species instantly. "Commander Kale," the admiral said, "your people must come from very far away if this environment seems unusual to you. Most of human space is like this. We've been expanding steadily for centuries, terraforming planets and building new colonies." "Terraforming?" Kale asked weakly. "Making planets suitable for human life," Admiral Kim explained patiently. "We usually start by adjusting the atmosphere and radiation levels to match our home conditions. It takes a few decades, but eventually we can live there comfortably." Kale realized with growing horror that the humans weren't just living in their accidentally created wasteland, they were actively spreading it. Every planet they colonized, every star system they entered, became as hostile to advanced galactic technology as their original territory. What other species saw as the galaxy's most dangerous dead zone was actually humanity's expanding empire. They had weaponized their own incompetence, turning their corner of space into the perfect defensive barrier against any civilization that relied on advanced technology. And they had absolutely no idea what they had accomplished. To them, this was just normal life, and anyone who couldn't survive in these conditions was simply too weak to deserve space travel. The humans were the most terrifying species in the galaxy, and they thought they were alone. Kale's ship limped back into Vortex space 3 weeks after entering the dead zone. Their advanced systems slowly came back online as they moved away from the radiation-soaked region that humans called home. Word of their return spread quickly through the galactic communication networks. Within days, representatives from every major civilization in the galaxy gathered for an emergency session of the Galactic Council. The massive meeting hall on the neutral world of Nexus Prime had never seen such an urgent assembly. Leaders who normally refused to speak to each other sat side by side, united by their fear of what Kale had discovered. Council Speaker Vriex, an ancient being whose people had been exploring space for over 10,000 years, called the meeting to order with trembling hands. His usually calm voice shook as he addressed the assembled delegates. "Commander Kale has returned from the region we call the Dead Zone with information that changes everything we thought we knew about our galaxy. Commander, please tell the Council what you found." Kale stood at the center of the Great Hall, surrounded by hundreds of alien faces staring at him with a mixture of curiosity and dread. He had practiced this speech during his journey home, but the words still felt impossible to believe. "Honored delegates, the Dead Zone is not empty. It contains a thriving civilization called humans who have built an empire across thousands of star systems. They have lived in that region for over 3 centuries, and they are actively expanding their territory." A wave of shocked whispers spread through the assembly. Counselor Tiva from the Zalari Empire raised one of her forearms to speak. "Commander, that's impossible. Nothing can survive in that region. Our most advanced technology fails instantly upon entering that space." "That's exactly the point," Kale replied grimly. "The humans don't use advanced technology. They build everything from simple metals and basic electronics. What we see as a toxic wasteland they see as normal space." Dr. Ilix stepped forward to address the council with her scientific findings. "Honored delegates, the humans created this environment themselves through centuries of reckless experimentation. Nuclear weapons testing, antimatter accidents, stellar engineering projects gone wrong. They turned their entire corner of the galaxy into a region that kills our technology but perfectly suits theirs." The council chamber erupted in panicked conversations. Delegate Karath from the Hegemony of Worlds stood up, his voice booming over the noise. "Are you saying they weaponized incompetence?" "Not intentionally," Kale answered. "They have no idea that their space is dangerous to other civilizations. To them, we would seem impossibly fragile because our technology breaks so easily." Council Speaker Vriex called for order, but his own fear was obvious. "Commander, what are their capabilities? Are they a military threat?" Engineer Mordek joined the presentation, his gray skin dark with worry. "Their ships are built like flying fortresses. Thick metal hulls, redundant systems, chemical rockets that work reliably in any environment. They could fly directly through our defensive lines and our weapons would fail before we could even target them." "But surely they can't leave their toxic region," suggested Counselor Zen from the Trade Federation. "Their primitive technology won't work in normal space." "That's where you're wrong," Kale said quietly. "Our long-range scouts have detected human exploration vessels probing beyond their borders. Ships with names like the Incheon, commanded by officers like Captain Han Jae-min. They're developing hybrid technology that works both in their region and in normal space. The council chamber fell completely silent. Every delegate understood the implications. If humans could build ships that functioned everywhere, they would become unstoppable. Their technology would work in any environment, while galactic civilizations' advanced systems would fail the moment humans arrived. Counselor Teza spoke in a whisper that carried across the silent hall. What do they want? What are their intentions? That's the most terrifying part, Dr. Ilex replied. They seem to be peaceful explorers and traders. But they have no concept of how dangerous they are to us. Every planet they colonize, every system they enter, becomes as toxic to our technology as their home region. They're not invading, Kale added. They're just spreading naturally the way any growing civilization does. But their expansion turns space itself into a weapon against us. Council Speaker Vriex stood slowly, his ancient frame shaking with the weight of this knowledge. What are our options? We could try to make contact, suggested Counselor Karath. Explain the situation. Maybe they would be willing to limit their expansion if they understood the consequences. And if they refuse? Asked Counselor Zen. If they decide that their right to expand is more important than our survival? The question hung in the air like poison. Every delegate knew the answer. If humans chose to be hostile, there was nothing galactic civilization could do to stop them. Their most powerful weapons would be useless metal scrap in human space. We could try to contain them, whispered Counselor Tiss. Build warning beacons around their territory. Keep them isolated. With what? Mordek asked. Any containment system we build will fail the moment it enters their region. We can't even get close enough to build barriers. Council Speaker Vriex looked around the chamber at the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy, all of them helpless against a species that didn't even know they were a threat. Then we pray, he said finally. We pray that when they fully emerge from their toxic home, they come in peace. Because if they don't, this galaxy will belong to the humans, and the rest of us will just be living in their shadow.